Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines A is a 2003 science fiction action film, the third installment in the Terminator franchise and a sequel to Terminator 2, Judgment Day, 1991. It was directed by Jonathan Mostow and stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Nick Stahl, Claire Danes, and Kristanna Loken. In its plot, the malevolent artificial intelligence Skynet sends a TX, Loken, a highly advanced Terminator back in time to ensure the rise of machines by killing top members of the future human resistance as John Connors, Stahl, location is unknown. The Resistance sends back a reprogrammed T-850, Schwarzenegger, to protect John and Kate, Danes. While Terminator creator James Cameron was interested in directing the third film, he ultimately had no involvement with Terminator 3. Andrew G. Vajna and Mario Kassar, who had produced Terminator 2, Judgment Day through their company Carolco Pictures, obtained the rights for the franchise through both Carolco's liquidation auction and negotiations with producer Gale Ann Hurd. In 1999, Teddy Sarafian was hired to write the first draft of the script. Mostow joined the project as director in 2001, and he brought on John Brancato and Michael Ferris to rewrite Sarafian's script. The $187 million budget included a $5 million salary for Mostow and a record $30 million salary for Schwarzenegger. Filming took place in California from April to September 2002. Industrial Light and Magic and Stan Winston created the special effects, as they did for the previous film. Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines premiered at the Mann Village Theater in Westwood, Los Angeles, on June 30, 2003, and was released on July 2, 2003, by Warner Bros. Pictures in North America. The film was rolled out overseas throughout the summer, with Columbia Pictures overseeing the bulk of the international distribution. It received generally positive reviews and earned $433.4 million worldwide, finishing its theatrical run as the seventh highest-grossing film of 2003. Coincidentally, the film was used to mark Schwarzenegger's formal entry into politics, having been speculated to be a vehicle for his 2003 gubernatorial run. A sequel, Terminator Salvation, was released in 2009. Plot: 10 years after destroying Cyberdyne Systems B, John Connor has been living as a nomad following the death of his mother, Sarah Connor, and fears that the malevolent artificial intelligence Skynet is still hunting him despite a war between humans and machines not happening in 1997, as foretold. Unable to locate John in the past, Skynet sends the TX, an advanced Terminator with shape-shifting liquid metal covering a virtually impervious metal endoskeleton, back in time to John's present in Los Angeles, to kill his future allies in the Resistance, including John's future wife, Kate Brewster. In response, the Resistance sends back a reprogrammed T-850 Terminator to protect John and Kate. After killing other targets, the TX locates the pair at an animal hospital where Kate works. John becomes the TX's primary target, but the Terminator helps him and Kate escape, taking them to a mausoleum where John's mother, Sarah, is supposedly interred. Inside her coffin, they find a weapons cache left at Sarah's request in case Judgment Day was not averted and the Terminators returned. They escape an armed battle with the police and fend off the pursuing TX. The Terminator reveals that John and Sarah's actions only delayed Judgment Day and that Skynet's attack will occur that day. The Terminator intends to drive John and Kate to Mexico to escape the fallout when Skynet begins its nuclear attack. John orders the Terminator to take him and Kate to see her father, U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General Robert Brewster. The Terminator refuses because he can't jeopardize his mission. However, when Kate demands to see her father, the Terminator obeys. The pair learns that the Terminator originally killed John in 2032 due to his emotional attachment to the model, before Kate captured and reprogrammed the Terminator and sent it back in time. Meanwhile, General Brewster is supervising the development of Skynet for Cyber Research Systems, CRS, which also develops autonomous weapons. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff pressures him to activate Skynet to stop an anomalous computer virus from invading servers worldwide. General Brewster fails to discover that the virus was Skynet becoming sentient, and John and Kate arrive too late to stop him from activating it. The TX fatally injures General Brewster and controls the CRS weaponized T-1 and HK drones, which kill the employees. Before he dies, the General gives Kate and John the location of what John believes is Skynet's system core. The pair head for the tarmac to take General Brewster's single-engine plane to Crystal Peak, a facility built inside the Sierra Nevada. After a battle, the TX severely damages the Terminator, reprogramming it to kill John, and pursues John and Kate through the CRS facility. When a particle accelerator is activated, it magnetically binds the TX to the equipment. The still-conscious Terminator struggles to control its outer functions. As it prepares to kill John, he urges the Terminator to choose between its conflicting programming. It deliberately forces a shutdown of its corrupted system, enabling the pair's escape. Shortly after they leave, the Terminator's system reboots. Meanwhile, the TX escapes the accelerator and resumes pursuit. After John and Kate reach Crystal Peak, the TX arrives by helicopter. Before it can attack, the Terminator arrives in a second helicopter, crashing into and crushing the TX. The TX pulls itself from the wreckage and attempts to drag itself inside the bunker to follow the pair. The Terminator holds the bunker door open long enough for the pair to lock them inside, then uses its last hydrogen fuel cell to destroy both itself and the TX. John and Kate discover that Crystal Peak is not Skynet's core but rather a nuclear fallout shelter command facility for government and military officials. Having no core, Skynet has become a part of cyberspace after becoming self-aware. Judgment Day begins as Skynet fires nuclear missiles worldwide, starting a nuclear holocaust. The pair begins to receive radio transmissions on the emergency radio equipment. John tentatively assumes command by answering radio calls to start fighting back against Skynet. Cast. See also, List of Terminator characters. Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator. Nick Stahl as John Connor. Stahl replaces Edward Furlong from the second film. Kristanna Loken as the TX, an advanced Terminator sent back to murder John's resistance lieutenants. Claire Danes as Kate Brewster, John's former classmate and Scott's fiancée. David Andrews as Lieutenant General Robert Brewster, Kate's father who is also the program director at CRS, which has acquired Cyberdyne Systems' remaining assets. Mark Famiglietti as Scott Mason, Kate's fiancé who is killed by the TX. The character was originally named Scott Peterson, but the name was changed in order to avoid association with the case involving the murder of Lacey Peterson and her unborn son Connor by her husband Scott Peterson. 6 In the ending credits his name is still listed as Scott Peterson. Earl Bone as Dr. Peter Silberman, reprising his role from the first 2 films. Bone appears in one scene, attempting to comfort Kate after she witnesses the acts of the Terminator. Jay Covone portrayed an LAPD officer. Kim Robillard and Mark Hicks portrayed Detective Edwards and Detective Bell. In the film's dialogue Bell is identified correctly, however in the film's end credits his name is listed as Detective Martinez. One of Schwarzenegger's stunt doubles, Billy D. Lucas, portrayed a civilian who has his car accidentally wrecked by John. Production. Conception. James Cameron, pictured in 2000, directed the first 2 films, but declined to return for the third. James Cameron had directed and co-written the previous Terminator films. The film rights to the franchise were held by Carolco Pictures and by Cameron's ex-wife in Terminator 2, Judgment Day, 1991, executive producer Gail Ann Hurd, who both held 50% of the rights. 7 Cameron had sold his stake to Hurd for $1 prior to directing The Terminator, 1984. 8 In July 1991, Cameron said that if Terminator 2 was successful, there may be some economic pressure to do a sequel. 9 Hurd said that month, "I've always felt the story lent itself wonderfully to being a continuing tale." She believed it was natural that a third film would happen, but was unsure at that time if Arnold Schwarzenegger would reprise his role as the Terminator. Hurd said that for Schwarzenegger to commit to another film, he would have to read a finished script, approve a director, and see if the project fit into his schedule. 10. Following Terminator 2's release, Cameron said he had no intentions for further sequels, believing it brings the story full circle and ends. "And I think ending it at this point is a good idea." Cameron and co-writer William Wisher wrote the script with the intention of leaving no option for a sequel. 11-12 Even so, Carolco co-founder Mario Kassar said in May 1992 that he intended to make a Terminator 3 film within the next 5 to 7 years. 13 TriStar Pictures, which distributed Terminator 2, would be involved in the new film. That month, TriStar chief Mike Medavoy said the film would probably take a couple of years. 14. Development. By the end of 1995, Carolco had filed for bankruptcy. 15 and Cameron wanted to direct a third film with the involvement of 20th Century Fox. 16 Cameron's 3D film ride, Terminator 2 3D, Battle Across Time, would open later in 1996. The project reunited the main cast of Terminator 2, Judgment Day, and had prompted Cameron to begin writing a script for a Terminator 3 film. 17 Cameron said Terminator 2 3D, Battle Across Time would serve as a stepping stone toward a third Terminator film. 18 However, such a film would not be ready for a few years as Cameron was busy working on Titanic for Fox. 17. When Carolco filed for bankruptcy on November 10, 1995, its assets were bound to a liquidation auction. 15/19 That day, Fox signed a $50 million deal to acquire all of Carolco's assets, including the rights to Terminator sequels, as well as the company's existing film library. 15/20 Fox withdrew its bid in January 1996, when Canal Plus bid $58 million for Carolco's film library. Canal Plus' offer did not include purchasing the rights for Carolco's sequel films, but Fox wanted all of Carolco's assets and was unwilling to match or exceed the bid offer made by Canal Plus. 2019 The sequel rights would ultimately be auctioned through U.S. bankruptcy court, where Fox intended to purchase them. 2021. The new Terminator film would have Schwarzenegger reprising his role. 22 Linda Hamilton had also talked with Cameron about reprising her role as Sarah Connor. 23 During 1997, Fox spent 9 months negotiating with Cameron, Schwarzenegger, and Hurd, the latter in regard to her share of the sequel rights. 22 Bill Mechanic, chairman of Fox Filmed Entertainment, oversaw the project and negotiations at that time. Mechanic wanted the trio to be involved in the new film, so he sought to first secure deals with them before proceeding with the purchase of the Carolco rights. Mechanic also believed that a deal with the trio would give him necessary leverage with the U.S. bankruptcy court to acquire the rights from Carolco. 20 At that time, Cameron committed to writing and producing the film, and reserved the right to direct it in the event that he wanted to do so. 8. Fox intended to make the new Terminator film on a budget similar to its predecessor, approximately $95 million. However, it was determined that the film could not be made on the intended budget when considering the additional cost of purchasing Carolco's rights. 22 As well as Schwarzenegger's desired $25 million salary. 24 At some point, Schwarzenegger had talked to Cameron about the two of them buying the rights themselves, but Cameron was not interested in this idea and wanted to let Fox handle the rights. Schwarzenegger said about Fox, "Only later did I learn they were making these ridiculous lowball offers, like $750,000. We could have owned this ourselves, but Jim didn't want to be in that business." 5. Andrew Vajna in 2013. Dimension Films, a division of Miramax Films, had agreed to purchase the rights that were owned by Heard and also intended to buy Carolco's rights through the auction. However, a judge ruled against an earlier motion which stated that only an established studio should be allowed to bid for the Carolco rights. This allowed Andrew G. Vajna to participate in the bidding. 5. Vajna had co-founded Carolco with Kasser but left the company in 1989. 20. In September 1997, Cameron invited his friends Vajna and Kasser to see an early edit of Titanic, during which Vajna and Kasser learned that the Terminator rights were still available. 8. That month, Mechanic discovered that Vajna had been quietly negotiating with the bankruptcy court to acquire the rights for himself and Kasser. The duo planned to form a new production company with Terminator 3 as its debut. During September 1997, Vajna signed a tentative $7.5 million agreement to purchase the rights, which were to be sold later in an auction scheduled for the following month. Mechanic was upset to learn of Vajna's agreement, having spent months in negotiations with Schwarzenegger, Cameron, and Heard. 2021-25 Cameron was upset as well, as Vajna and Kasser had not mentioned their intention to buy the rights during their meeting days earlier. This would lead to the deterioration of their friendship. 8. Vajna later said he was unaware that Cameron was already planning Terminator 3. 26 Miramax dropped out of the bidding when Vajna raised his bid to $8 million. 27. By October 1997, the budgetary concerns over Terminator 3 and Cameron's troubled post-production of Titanic for Fox led them both to abandon the Terminator project and not pursue the rights. 22 Mechanic had asked Cameron if he wanted Fox to outbid Vajna, but Cameron decided he did not want to be involved in the project. Mechanic believed that Cameron was only hanging in there at the end because of Arnold and quality control. It was something that Arnold always wanted to do again. Period. And Jim was more than happy to do it. 8. Cameron gave his approval for Heard and Schwarzenegger to make another Terminator film without him. 22 Although Schwarzenegger did not want to make the film without Cameron. 28 and initially refused to star in the third film. 28. Over time, Schwarzenegger would continue trying to persuade Cameron to be involved in the new film. In 2003, Cameron said that he felt he had already told the whole story with his first two Terminator films, something that he came to realize during the post-production of Titanic. 28 Cameron later stated, "I just felt as a filmmaker maybe I've gone beyond it. I really wasn't that interested. I felt like I'd told the story I wanted to tell. I suppose I could have pursued it more aggressively and gone to the mat for it, but I felt like I was laboring in someone else's house to an extent because I had sold the rights very early on." 29 Nevertheless, feeling that the Terminator character was as much Schwarzenegger's as it was his own, Cameron eventually advised Schwarzenegger to do the third film without him, saying, "If they can come up with a good script and they pay you a lot of money, don't think twice." 28 The film was in high demand according to Schwarzenegger, who said he was frequently asked in interviews about the possibility of a third film. 28. In October 1997, the rights to future Terminator films were auctioned to Vajna for $8 million. 31 Heard had opposed Vajna's attempt to buy the rights, and had tried unsuccessfully to change Cameron's mind about purchasing the rights. 32 On the night that the rights were auctioned, Vajna contacted Cameron and Schwarzenegger to resolve the situation. Vajna was surprised that Cameron would be upset about the rights being sold, later saying, "What difference does it make to Jim who's financing the movie, a studio, or us? His deal would have been the same." Arnold tried to convince Jim over a long period of time to do the film. Arnold felt very loyal. 8 Vajna said that Cameron felt that we stole his baby, even though we're the ones who put it together last time round. So we felt that that was kind of strange and then we went on to do it ourselves. 26. Cameron said in January 1998 that it was unlikely he would direct Terminator 3. 33 In March 1998, Vajna and Kasser acquired Heard's half of the Terminator rights for $8 million, to become full owners of the franchise, with plans to proceed on Terminator 3. 531 Heard served as an executive producer on the film. 34 Kasser and Vajna contacted Cameron with the hope that he would direct, but he declined. 35-36 According to Kasser, Cameron was trying to obtain the auctioned Terminator rights for himself at the time that he was asked to direct. 35 Cameron and his company, Lightstorm Entertainment, had considered trying to obtain the rights, but ultimately chose not to do so. It was estimated that acquiring the rights and paying Schwarzenegger to reprise his role could cost up to $100 million. 37. Pre-production. By 1999, Kasser and Vajna had been negotiating with various studios about partnering on the project but decided to finalize the film's concept and script first. They founded C2 Pictures that year 38 and by October 1999-39 they had brought hOLLYBOLLY and German company VCL on board the project as CO financiers. The latter companies helped finance development of a script by Teddy Sarafian 3640 who was hired for the film in 1999, along with David C. Wilson for a possible fourth installment. 38 Fox held discussions with Vajna and Kasser about buying the rights from them for Cameron. Mechanic said these discussions were never serious. 8 It was also reported that Fox and Cameron had been in discussions with Vajna and Kasser about partnering on the film. 36-38 Vajna and Kasser accepted a proposal from Fox, but it fell apart once hOLLYBOLLY and VCL were brought onto the project, as the latter companies purchased the distribution rights for Japan and Germany, the largest markets outside of the United States. 8-36-38 Kasser and Vajna intended to proceed on the film with or without Schwarzenegger, although Kasser preferred that he be involved. Filming was expected to begin in 2000 for a release the following year. 38. In March 2000, it was announced that VCL would have a 25% stake in the film, as well as the rights in German-speaking territories. At the time, Sarafian was days away from completing his draft, and Kasser hoped to announce a director within 45 days. Filming was still expected to commence later that year, with a release scheduled for the fourth quarter of 2001. Kasser wanted to have Terminator 3 and Terminator 4 shot back-to-back, possibly with different directors. 41 Plans to shoot the film and its sequel simultaneously were later dropped, in case Terminator 3 did not become a success. 5 Later in 2000, the start of production on Terminator 3 was delayed by a year. 42. Sarafian's script, titled T3, Rise of the Machines, featured John Connor working in a dot-com company. The script's villain was the T1G, a female Terminator sent from the future, with the ability to turn invisible. 43-44 By July 2000, Cameron had been given a copy of Sarafian's script, but he passed on directing the film due to his estranged relationship with Vajna and Kasser. 45-46 Cameron later stated that he refused to direct or produce Terminator 3 because he disliked the idea of working from somebody else's script in a story he originated. 47 According to Schwarzenegger, Cameron declined involvement on the project because he did not want to commit to a time frame, as he was busy and had other projects he wanted to explore. 48-49 Other directors being considered in 2000 included Ang Lee, Christian Dugley, David Fincher, John McTiernan, Ridley Scott, and Roland Emmerich. 45-46 550 Lee passed on the project to instead direct Hulk, 2003. 51 Scott declined to direct the film so that he could begin production on Black Hawk Down. 52 Intermedia was announced as a CO financier in October 2000. 40. Although production was scheduled to begin in 2001, it was delayed in anticipation of a writer's strike, which ultimately did not occur. 553 There was also the possibility of an actor's strike, and filming was scheduled to begin after it ended. 53-54 In March 2001, Jonathan Mostow and his producing partner Hal Lieberman were in negotiations to join the project as director and producer respectively. 54-55 Mostow said he was not shy when he started working on the project, as he later recalled, "I said, here's the movie I'm going to make, here's how I'm going to do it. If you don't want to do it my way, you should find a different director." 56 Mostow had concerns about Sarafian's script and declined to start filming until it was perfected. 43-56 Mostow invited his college classmates John Brancato and Michael Ferris to rework the screenplay. 43 They signed on to rewrite it in June 2001. 57 Sarafian still got a story credit. 34 Although much of his draft was rewritten, and scenes were added to make it more of a road movie, fulfilling Mostow's vision for the film. 43 Brancato said there was initial consideration given to ignoring the basic format of the earlier films by removing aspects of time travel and killer machines from the future. "We tried all sorts of wacky scenarios, but to be honest it just wasn't working." 58 The idea of a female Terminator was retained from Sarafian's draft. 58 Although Mostow disliked Sarafian's idea that the character could turn invisible, saying, "It's not visceral." The film makes a subtle reference to Schwarzenegger's age by depicting his character as an obsolete Terminator compared to the TX. Mostow said, "It's always great if you can have your protagonist or hero be completely outmatched." 43. In December 2001, several companies competed for the distribution rights to the film. 59 The heads of each major studio were invited that month to a secret hotel room meeting to read the script and bid for the rights. Fox declined to participate in the meeting, out of loyalty to Cameron. 8. Warner Bros. Won the US distribution rights that month, with filming scheduled to begin in April 2002. 6061 Columbia TriStar Film Distributors International subsequently acquired most of the international distribution rights, including those that would have been handled by VCL, which was suffering financially at the time. 62. The film's production budget was initially set at $169,170,063,64, making it the most expensive film ever to be greenlit at the time. 60-61-65 The budget would include paying off the debts of Carolco, as well as a $5 million salary for Mostow and a record $30 million salary for Schwarzenegger. 59-66-67 The distribution rights were sold for $145 million, while the remaining $25 million would be covered by Vajna, Kasser, and Intermedia. 8 Budget statements for the film put the final cost at $187.3 million, or $167.3 million excluding the production overhead. 68-69 Product placement deals, with companies such as PepsiCo and Toyota, helped regenerate profit. For example, the film prominently features the then new Toyota Tundra truck. 5 Schwarzenegger received a record salary of $29.25 million, plus 20% of the profits. 68 Although he agreed to defer part of his salary in order to prevent the relocation of the set to Vancouver, British Columbia, from Los Angeles. 70 Initially, the film was to have a 100-day shoot, with 62 days in Vancouver and 38 days in Los Angeles. The cast and crew generally agreed that they did not want to relocate from California, so $8 million was trimmed from the budget, allowing for filming to take place entirely in the state. Another benefit of shooting in Los Angeles is that the film is set there. 71 It was announced in February 2002 that the shoot would take place entirely in California. 72. Casting. Schwarzenegger signed on to the project in June 2073-74 after reading Sarafian's draft. 26 Edward Furlong signed on in August 2000, to reprise his role as John Connor from the previous film. 75-44 However, in December 2001, casting began for a new actor to replace Furlong. 76 Who was dropped from the project because of a substance abuse problem. 77-78 Furlong was removed by Warner Bros., which was concerned that his publicized drug problems could jeopardize the project. 5 Furlong later stated, "I don't know what happened. It just wasn't the time. I was going through my own thing at the point in my life, whatever, it just wasn't meant to be." 77. According to Mostow, Furlong had been considered, but the director wanted to start from scratch with a new actor, as John would be portrayed as a very different character now. 79 Mostow described the character as someone who has carried the burden of being a leader in the future, saying it's very lonely because nobody else in the world knows about it or believes it. Even if he tried to explain to somebody, they'd think he was crazy, and that's a really interesting character. 80 Mostow wanted the character to have soulfulness, and he believed that Nick Stahl was the right actor for the role. 79 Although John Connor was written as being 10 years old in the script for Terminator 2, Furlong was actually several years older than that. For Terminator 3, Mostow wondered whether the character's current age should be faithful to what was written before. After some consideration, Mostow chose to make the character slightly older for Terminator 3, to be consistent with Furlong's real age. The film states that John was 13 years old during the events of the previous film. Mostow said he tried to avoid the age discrepancy as much as possible in the film. 79 Some fans were disappointed by the decision to recast Furlong. 79 And some were alienated by the age change. 81. In November 2000, Linda Hamilton said she had turned down an offer to reprise her role as Sarah Connor. 82 Hamilton said in October 2001 that the script did not take her character in any new directions. The film is really about turning the baton over to Sarah's son John, played by Eddie Furlong. It's Eddie's movie, and Arnold's. It was like a no-win situation for me. She also was dissuaded by the fact that Cameron would have no involvement in the film. 83-84 Hamilton later explained her decision not to reprise her role. "They offered me a part. I read it and I knew my character arc was so complete in the first two, and in the third one it was a negligible character. She died halfway through and there was no time to mourn her. It was kind of disposable, so I said no thank you." 85 When Mostow signed on as director, one of his conditions was that Hamilton reprise her role. 86-79 However, he realized that the character would not have changed much since the previous film and that she would not contribute much to the story, saying later, "Linda Hamilton is too important to the franchise to stick her in as the third wheel." Mostow realized that John Connor would need to be the focus of the story, although the mausoleum scene was added as a way of integrating Hamilton's character into the story as well. 79 Old footage of Hamilton was expected to be used for flashback scenes of Sarah Connor. 87-88 Although no such scenes exist in the final film, Mostow said the flashbacks made a complicated story even more complicated. 5. When Schwarzenegger was called into Kasser and Vajna's office in April 2001, he did not expect them to bring up Terminator 3 given the film's long stint in development hell. Instead, he wanted to talk to the producers about his political interests, including a potential candidacy as governor of California in the 2002 election. However, pre-production was rolling along, with the screenplay nearly finished and set deals for both merchandising and distribution. Schwarzenegger postponed his gubernatorial plans, which eventually came into fruition with the 2003 California gubernatorial recall election. Instead, the actor combined production of the film with the promotion of Proposition 49, which advocated increased extracurricular activity in California schools. At times Schwarzenegger even received politicians, journalists, and potential financial backers of the proposition on the film set. 89 During pre-production, Schwarzenegger worked out daily to prepare for the role, to get into the same physical shape in which he was during shooting of the previous films. 90 Schwarzenegger felt it was important to be in the same physical condition as he was for the previous film, saying, "Otherwise, people would say, he's lost it, he's all saggy and flabby, and that would be all anyone would talk about it. I didn't want to be digitized, because someone would blab, and it would be in all the columns. So I just worked harder." 5. Approximately 10,000 women auditioned for the role of the TX. 86 Schwarzenegger originally wanted wrestling star Chyna to portray the TX. 591 Famke Janssen subsequently emerged as the most likely candidate for the role. 592 Following the 2001 release of The Fast and the Furious, starring Vin Diesel, there was consideration given to rewriting the TX character as a man with Diesel in the role. 593 In early 2002, Kristanna Loken was cast as the TX, while Stahl was cast as John Connor. 94-95 Stahl auditioned approximately 5 times, and underwent 3 screen tests, before receiving the role. 96 Other actors considered for the role of John Connor included Shane West, Jake Gyllenhaal 97-98 and Logan Marshall Green. 99 For the film, Stahl took some weapons training and learned how to ride a motorcycle. 90 Stahl did not aim to impersonate Furlong's earlier performance. For her role, Logan underwent 6 weeks of training 90 involving weights, fighting, and weapons. 87 She also undertook Krav Maga 90 and gained 14 pounds, 6.4 kilograms, of muscle. 100 In addition, Logan took a mime movement class to perfect her character's robotic movements. 87. Mostow originally wanted Claire Danes for the role of Kate Brewster, but the initial effort to get her involved did not work out. 86-79 Sophia Bush was cast in the role instead, and Mostow was more excited about her casting than any other character. 79 However, during filming, Mostow felt that Bush's appearance and performance seemed too youthful for the role. 101 He said, "I tried everything I could to make her look older, but ultimately the camera doesn't lie. So I had to replace her and it was heartbreaking because it was a huge break for her." 79 After reading the script, Danes decided to join the cast to play Kate. 5 Bush was replaced by Danes in May 2002, a month into filming. 101 Danes began filming the day after she was hired. 103. Filming. Filming began on April 15, 2002. 101 The first night of filming involved Schwarzenegger's Terminator ramming a vehicle into Logan's TX outside the Animal Hospital 30, which was constructed as a set in Los Angeles' Sunland Tujunga neighborhood. 104 Initially, Mostow was somewhat hesitant about following Cameron's footsteps as director 3566, but he eventually put aside such concerns and later said, "Everyone will see this movie and make comparisons, but I can't control any of that." 66 Schwarzenegger missed working with Cameron and initially did not have the same kind of confidence in Mostow as filming began. However, during the first week of filming, Schwarzenegger became convinced that Mostow was an adequate choice. 35-66. Production designer Jeff Mann and his crew of 350 people designed and constructed multiple sets for the film during a 4-month period prior to filming. 90 Los Angeles Center Studios was a major filming location. 71 As the production used 6 sound stages there. 90 At least 3 sound stages were occupied by the project at all times during filming, and at one point all of the stages were in use for the shoot. 71 In June 2002, driving scenes were filmed at Rose Hills Memorial Park in Whittier, California. 105 Filming also took place at Big Bend National Park in Texas. 106 Some sequences use more than 1,000 simultaneous tracks of audio. 90. Stahl had few scenes during the initial weeks of filming, giving him time to work on his physique. 96 Schwarzenegger worked out during lunch breaks to maintain his physical appearance. 107 He had a 20-foot, 6.1 m, trailer with a gym inside, where he would work out in between filming. 86 Schwarzenegger also performed many of his own stunts, something that he enjoyed doing. One of the most elaborate and choreographed stunts was devised by Mostow and stunt coordinator Simon Crane. The scene involves the TX driving a 100-ton mobile crane down a street in pursuit of John Connor. During the scene, Schwarzenegger's Terminator hangs onto the crane arm as it is swung around, smashing him into a glass building and a passing fire truck. 14 cameras were used for the shot in which he crashes through a glass building, as the film crew would only have one chance to film it, which was the case with many of the film's stunts. Schwarzenegger enjoyed filming the scene and called it unbelievable, while stating, "We used every safety precaution, but there were close calls, many times." The street chase was filmed on a 0.25-mile, 0.40 kilometers, set of road and buildings, constructed at a Boeing plant in Downey, California. 9108. The film's showdown between the two Terminators is set in a marble and steel bathroom. Mostow's vision for the scene was to have the bathroom completely destroyed by the Terminators by the end of their battle. The scene took 4 weeks to rehearse and 2 weeks to film. 90. In early September 2002, scenes were filmed at San Bernardino International Airport. 109. As with the previous films, the Terminator characters arrive naked after traveling through time. 9110. One of the film's opening scenes is set at the Desert Star Bar, where Schwarzenegger's Terminator goes in search of clothes. The scene was filmed at the Cowboy Palace Bar in the San Fernando Valley. 90. The Sierra Inn Bar and Restaurant, in Agua Dulce, California, was also used for exterior shots of the Desert Star. 111-112. The final scene to be filmed was another opening scene in which the TX arrives naked on Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills, California. Mostow said shooting the scene discreetly was a challenge due to the tourist popularity of Rodeo Drive. The filmmakers had to wait 5 months before finally receiving clearance to shoot the scene. 110. The street had to be closed for filming to take place. 113. The 5-month 90 shoot proceeded as scheduled, from April 15, 2002, and concluded on September 8, 2002. 110-114. Effects. The film features more than 600 special effects shots. 66 Industrial Light and Magic, ILM, and Stan Winston created the special effects, as they had done for the previous film. 115-116. Winston created the Terminator special effects and also designed the T-190-117, an early Terminator machine that appears in the CRS facility near the end of the film. Mostow said about the T-1, "I wanted to depict the first generation of Terminator robots, to show where it all began. We came up with this primitive but deadly robotic machine that is part tank, part robot." Winston created 5 full-sized, functioning T-1 robots, each one controlled by hydraulics. Winston's team also designed the TX's endoskeleton frame, as well as her weapons. Certain sequences involving fire and explosions were deemed too dangerous for Schwarzenegger and Logan to perform, so Winston and his team constructed life-sized robot replicas of the actors for such scenes. 90. When the start of production was delayed from its earlier 2001 date, it allowed Winston more time to develop the various special effects. 5. ILM used miniature sculptures and computer-generated imagery, CGI, to create numerous visual effects for brief scenes set in the future, depicting the post-apocalyptic war between humans and machines. 90. ILM's effects included Terminator endoskeletons seen during the future war. The endoskeletons were created entirely through CGI. 118. One challenging scene for the visual effects team takes place at a cemetery, where the TX has taken on the appearance of Kate's fiancé, before morphing to her original appearance. The scene required several repeated shots of the same area with the use of controlled camera movements that were the same for each take. 90. Another difficult scene depicts the TX's liquid metal exterior peeling off to reveal her endoskeleton. The visual effects team took 6 months to develop a method that would adequately simulate the scene. Pablo Hellman, visual effects supervisor for ILM, said, "We had no application for creating and controlling streams of liquid metal, so we had to begin by determining the density, weight, shape, and mass of this material, and how it would move under these conditions. It was a really complicated process." 90. Another scene features the crane vehicle flipping over at the end of the road chase sequence. The production crew determined that it would be too dangerous and impractical to use the actual vehicle during this portion of the sequence, so ILM digitally recreated the crane using photos of the actual vehicle. 90. One scene depicts the T-101 cutting open his chest cavity to remove a failing fuel cell battery, while simultaneously driving a truck. For the scene, Winston's team used cyber scans to create a body cast replica of Schwarzenegger that would sit in the driver's seat. Schwarzenegger was situated in the back of the truck, and his head and arms were visible in the front seat to give the impression that he was connected to the body cast. 90. Several shots during the bathroom battle used CGI to simulate the Terminators. Hellman said the scene required a tremendous amount of visual effects to accomplish, and in some shots, large sections of the bathroom are completely computer-generated. Mostow said the battle was actually a much more complicated sequence from a visual effects standpoint than the audience will ever realize. 90. A combination of Schwarzenegger's real body, prosthetics, and CGI were used to create the T-101 for its final scene in the film. 118. Music. Main article, Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, soundtrack. Marco Beltrami composed the musical score. He did not use the series leitmotif by Brad Fiedel 119, though it was used in the film's end credits. The film's soundtrack was released by Varese Sarabande on July 1, 2003. Release. Marketing. The first teaser trailer of Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines premiered online and in theaters with Men in Black 2 in July 2002. 120 on December 13, 2002, the first shot of TX was revealed on USA Today. Just 4 days later, a trailer was officially released online. It debuted in theaters a day later on December 18 with the release of The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. 121 The film was also advertised during Super Bowl XXXVII with a television commercial. 122. In May 2003, several parties were held in Cannes to promote the film. Also held there was a publicity event that included 10-foot, 3.0 m, metal robots, as well as comments from Schwarzenegger about the film. 123 action figures of the Terminator characters were produced by McFarlane Toys. 124. Atari adapted the film into 3 video games, beginning with Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, 2003, developed by Black Ops Entertainment for multiple platforms. 125 This was followed by Terminator 3, War of the Machines, 2003, and Terminator 3, The Redemption, 2004. 126. On the weekend of the film's release, NASCAR drivers Jamie McMurray and Michael Waltrip each drove T3 branded cars during races at Daytona International Speedway. The cars featured the likenesses of Schwarzenegger and Logan's characters. In addition, a month after the film was released, Formula One team Jaguar Racing would run their cars with T3 liveries at the 2003 British Grand Prix. 127. Theatrical. Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines had its premiere at Mann Village Theater in Westwood, Los Angeles on June 30, 2003. 128 129 130 In the United States, the film was released by Warner Bros. In 3,504 theaters on July 2, 2003. 131 press screenings of the film were very limited prior to release. 131. Home media. This section does not cite any sources. Please help improve this section by adding citations to reliable sources. Unsourced material may be challenged and removed. October 2022, learn how and when to remove this message. Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines was released on DVD and VHS on November 11, 2003 132 and on Blu-ray on February 26, 2008. Reception. Box office. Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines earned $150.4 million in the United States and Canada and $283 million in other territories, for a worldwide total of $433.4 million. 3. It was the 7th highest grossing film of 2003. 133. In the United States and Canada, Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines was released on July 2, 2003. It earned $12.5 million on its first day, including $4 million from Tuesday night previews. 134 The film grossed $44 million during its opening weekend. 135 combined with the $72.5 million 5-day Wednesday opening gross. 136 At the time of its opening, it had the 5th highest opening weekend for an R-rated film, behind The Matrix Reloaded, American Pie 2, 8 Mile, and Hannibal. 137 The film also scored the 4th highest 4th of July opening weekend, after Men in Black 2, and Independence Day. 138 Moreover, it competed against other films that were released during the summer season like Finding Nemo, The Italian Job, Hulk, Legally Blonde 2, Red, White and Blonde, Charlie's Angels, Full Throttle, Bruce Almighty, and Too Fast Too Furious. 135 These films would even dominate the weaker opening of Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas, an underperforming animated film. 139 Additionally, Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines surpassed Batman and Robin for having the biggest opening weekend for any film starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. 140 It would remain at the top of the box office until it was dethroned by Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl and The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen the following week. 141 Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines completed its theatrical run on October 30, 2003, making it the year's 8th highest grossing film. 142 Warner Bros. Said that the film was meaningfully profitable for them. 143. Worldwide, Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines had box office runs in several countries. The film made $1 million from India, making it the country's 3rd highest opening of any film, behind Die Another Day and Spider-Man. 144 In France, it became the 3rd highest opening for a 2003 film in the country, trailing only behind Taxi 3 and The Matrix Reloaded. 145 It then made $2.6 million in Italy during its opening weekend. 146 In the United Kingdom, the film made an opening weekend total of $9.6 million. 147 At this point, it had the country's 4th highest opening for any 2003 film, after Bruce Almighty, The Matrix Reloaded, and X2. With the exception of Batman and Robin and True Lies, the film's 4-day gross was superior to the total gross of any Schwarzenegger film released since Terminator 2, Judgment Day in 1991. Plus, it had earned $1.7 million from previews. 148 Meanwhile, in Japan, Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines went on to earn $12.5 million, making it the country's sixth largest opening of any film. The film had already earned $9.5 million from previews, surpassing Spirited Away's record for having the biggest previews in Japan. 149 It made $1.3 million in Thailand, becoming the second highest opening of any film in the country, behind The Legend of Suriyo Thai. 150 in total, the international grosses include Argentina, $2.5 million, Australia, $12.3 million, Austria, $3.4 million, France, $18.9 million, Germany, $19.5 million, India, $2.1 million, Italy, $6.2 million, Japan, $67.5 million, Mexico, $8.9 million, New Zealand, $2.3 million, Russia, $12.8 million, Spain, $13.9 million, and the United Kingdom, $31.2 million. 3. Critical response. Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines has an approval rating of 70% based on 206 professional reviews on the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, with an average rating of 6.5/10. Its critical consensus reads, although T3 never reaches the heights of the second movie, it is a welcome addition to the Terminator franchise. 151 Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines a score of 66 out of 100 based on 41 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. 152 audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of B+ on an A and to F scale. 153. Shortly after the film's release, Cameron described the film as, in one word, great. 154 But after the release of the fourth film, Terminator Salvation, Cameron added he felt his first two films were better than either of the later films. 155 A.O. Scott of the New York Times said the film is essentially a B movie, content to be loud, dumb, and obvious. 156 In a mixed review, David Adelstein of Paste magazine explained that the villain comes back more times than Wile E. Coyote. I found it tiresome and witless and numbingly repetitive, but action mavens won't feel cheated. 157 Roger Ebert gave the film 2.5 stars, remarking essentially one long chase and fight, punctuated by comic, campy, or simplistic dialogue. 158. In retrospect, director Jonathan Mostow said, the problem in Terminator 3 is that Terminator 2 was such a seminal movie. It was going to be impossible to blow people away because T2 was the first time a lot of people saw digital effects. The Liquid Metal Man, no one had ever seen that before. That and Jurassic Park, those are two movies that probably most have blown people away from seeing them in the theater. I knew that we wouldn't be able to achieve that. I also knew there was going to be a lot of skepticism. Why do you even need a third Terminator? I felt that I had to disarm those people. So that's why we made the choice to use humor, which is front-loaded earlier in the movie. Some of it's too shticky, some of it has not aged well with time, I'll be the first to confess. But if you went to the theater at the time, it worked with the audience. Arnold Alois Schwarzenegger b. born July 30, 1947, is an Austrian and American actor, businessman, former politician, and former professional bodybuilder, known for his roles in high-profile action films. He served as the 38th governor of California from 2003 to 2011. 3. Schwarzenegger began lifting weights at age 15 and won the Mr. Universe title age 20, and subsequently the Mr. Olympia title 7 times. He is tied with Phil Heath for the joint second number of all-time Mr. Olympia wins, behind Ronnie Coleman and Lee Haney, who are joint first with 8 wins each. Nicknamed the Austrian Oak in his bodybuilding days, he is regarded as one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time. 4-5 He has written books and articles about bodybuilding, including the autobiographical Arnold, The Education of a Bodybuilder, 1977, and the New Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding, 1998. 6-7 The Arnold Sports Festival, the second most prestigious bodybuilding event after the Mr. Olympia competition, is named after him. 8 He appeared in the bodybuilding documentary Pumping Iron, 1977, which set him on his way to a career in films. 9. After retiring from bodybuilding, Schwarzenegger gained worldwide fame as a Hollywood action star, with his breakthrough in the sword and sorcery epic Conan the Barbarian, 1982, 10 a box office success with a sequel in 1984. 11 After playing the title character in the science fiction film The Terminator, 1984, he starred in Terminator 2, Judgment Day, 1991, and 3 other sequels. His other successful action films included Commando, 1985, The Running Man, 1987, Predator, 1987, Total Recall, 1990, and True Lies, 1994, in addition to comedy films such as Twins, 1988, Kindergarten Cop, 1990, and Jingle All the Way, 1996. 12. At the height of his career, Schwarzenegger was known for his rivalry with Sylvester Stallone. 13 films in which he has appeared have grossed over $5.4 billion worldwide. 14. He is the founder of the film production company Oak Productions. 15. As a registered member of the Republican Party, Schwarzenegger chaired the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports during most of the George H.W. Bush administration. In 2003, he was elected governor of California in a special recall election to replace Gray Davis, the governor at the time. He received 48.6% of the vote, 17 points ahead of the runner-up, Cruz Bustamante of the Democratic Party. He was sworn in on November 17 to serve the remainder of Davis' term, and was re-elected in the 2006 gubernatorial election with an increased vote share of 55.9% to serve a full term. 16. In 2011, he reached his term limit as governor and returned to acting. As of 2025, Schwarzenegger and Steve Poizner are the last Republicans to win or hold statewide office in California, having both won their respective elections in 2006. Early life and education. Schwarzenegger's birthplace. Arnold Alois Schwarzenegger was born in Thal, Styria, on July 30, 1947, the second son of Gustav Schwarzenegger and his wife Aurelia, née Jadrony, 1922–1998. Gustav was the local chief of police, and after the Anschluss in 1938 joined the Nazi Party and in 1939 the Sturmabteilung, SA. In World War II, Gustav served as a military policeman in the invasions of Poland, France, and the Soviet Union, including the siege of Leningrad, rising to the title of Hauptfeldwebel. 1819 he was wounded in the Battle of Stalingrad 20 and was discharged in 1943 following a bout of malaria. According to Holocaust scholar Michael Birnbaum, Gustav Schwarzenegger served in theaters of the war where atrocities were committed. But there is no way to know from the documents whether he played a role. 18. Gustav's background received wide press attention during the 2003 California gubernatorial recall election in which Schwarzenegger was elected. 21. Gustav married Aurelia on October 20, 1945, he was 38 and she was 23. According to Schwarzenegger, his parents were very strict. Back then in Austria it was a very different world. If we did something bad or we disobeyed our parents, the rod was not spared. 22. He grew up in a Catholic family. 23. Gustav preferred his elder son, Meinhard, over Arnold. 24. His favoritism was strong and blatant, which stemmed from unfounded suspicion that Arnold was not his biological child. 25. Schwarzenegger says that his earliest childhood memory is of climbing into his parents' bed during a bad thunder and lightning storm and cuddling between his mother and father. 26. He has said, however, that his father had no patience for listening or understanding your problems. 23. He had a good relationship with his mother, with whom he kept in touch until her death. 27. In an interview with Fortune in 2004, Schwarzenegger told how he suffered what would now be called child abuse at the hands of his father. My hair was pulled. I was hit with belts. So was the kid next door. It was just the way it was. Many of the children I've seen were broken by their parents, which was the German-Austrian mentality. They didn't want to create an individual. It was all about conforming. I was one who did not conform, and whose will could not be broken. Therefore, I became a rebel. Every time I got hit, and every time someone said, "You can't do this," I said, "This is not going to be for much longer because I'm going to move out of here. I want to be rich. I want to be somebody." 19. At school, Schwarzenegger was reportedly academically average but stood out for his cheerful, good-humored, and exuberant character. 23. He struggled with reading and was later diagnosed as being dyslexic. 28. 29. Money was a problem in their household. Schwarzenegger recalled that one of the highlights of his youth was when the family bought a refrigerator. 25. His father Gustav was an athlete, and wished for his sons to become champions in Bavarian curling. 30. Influenced by his father, Schwarzenegger played several sports as a boy. 23. Schwarzenegger began weight training in 1960 when his football coach took his team to a local gym. 17. At age 14, he chose bodybuilding over football as a career. 11:31 He later said, "I actually started weight training when I was 15, but I'd been participating in sports, like soccer, for years, so I felt that although I was slim, I was well developed, at least enough so that I could start going to the gym and start Olympic lifting." 22. However, his official website biography claims that at 14, he started an intensive training program with Dan Farmer, studied psychology at 15, to learn more about the power of mind over body, and at 17, officially started his competitive career. 32. During a speech in 2001, he said, "My own plan formed when I was 14 years old. My father had wanted me to be a police officer like he was. My mother wanted me to go to trade school." 33. Schwarzenegger in 1971. Schwarzenegger took to visiting a gym in Graz, where he also frequented the local movie theaters to see films with bodybuilding idols such as Reg Park, Steve Reeves, and Johnny Weissmuller. 22 When Reeves died in 2000, Schwarzenegger fondly remembered him. As a teenager, I grew up with Steve Reeves. His remarkable accomplishments allowed me a sense of what was possible when others around me didn't always understand my dreams. Steve Reeves has been part of everything I've ever been fortunate enough to achieve. In 1961, Schwarzenegger met former Mr. Austria Kurt Marnoll, who invited him to train at the gym in Graz. 17 He was so dedicated as a youngster that he broke into the local gym on weekends to train even when it was closed. It would make me sick to miss a workout. I knew I couldn't look at myself in the mirror the next morning if I didn't do it. When asked about his first cinema experience as a boy, he replied, "I was very young, but I remember my father taking me to the Austrian theaters and seeing some newsreels. The first real movie I saw, that I distinctly remember, was a John Wayne movie." 22 In Graz, he was mentored by Alfred Gerstel, who had Jewish ancestry and later became president of the Federal Council, and befriended his son Karl. 34-35. Schwarzenegger's brother, Meinhard, died in a car crash on May 20, 1971. 17 He was driving drunk and died instantly. Schwarzenegger did not attend his funeral. Meinhard was engaged to Erika Knapp, and they had a 3-year-old son named Patrick. Schwarzenegger paid for Patrick's education and helped him to move to the U.S. 25 Schwarzenegger's father, Gustav, died of a stroke on December 13, 1972. 17 In Pumping Iron, Schwarzenegger claimed that he did not attend his father's funeral because he was training for a bodybuilding contest. Later, he and the film's producer said this story was taken from another bodybuilder to show the extremes some would go to for their sport and to make Schwarzenegger's image colder to create controversy for the film. 36 However, Barbara Baker, his first serious girlfriend, recalled that he informed her of his father's death without emotion and that he never spoke of his brother. 37 Over time, he has given at least 3 versions of why he was absent from his father's funeral. 25. Schwarzenegger served in the Austrian army in 1965 to fulfill the 1 year of service required at the time of all 18-year-old Austrian males. 1732 During his army service, he won the Junior Mr. Europe contest. 31 He went AWOL during basic training so he could take part in the competition and then spent a week in military prison. Participating in the competition meant so much to me that I didn't carefully think through the consequences. He entered another bodybuilding contest in Graz, at Steyerhof Hotel, where he placed second. He was voted Best Built Man of Europe, which made him famous in bodybuilding circles. The Mr. Universe title was my ticket to America, the land of opportunity, where I could become a star and get rich. 33 Schwarzenegger made his first plane trip in 1966, attending the NABA Mr. Universe competition in London. 32 He placed second in the Mr. Universe competition, not having the muscle definition of American winner Chester Jordan. 32. Charles Wag Bennett, one of the judges at the 1966 competition, was impressed with Schwarzenegger and offered to coach him. As Schwarzenegger had little money, Bennett invited him to stay in his crowded family home above one of his 2 gyms in Forest Gate, London. Jordan's leg definition had been judged superior, and Schwarzenegger, under a training program devised by Bennett, concentrated on improving his. Staying in the East End of London helped Schwarzenegger improve his rudimentary English. 38-39 Living with the Bennetts also changed him as a person. Being with them made me so much more sophisticated. When you're the age I was then, you're always looking for approval, for love, for attention, and also for guidance. At the time, I wasn't really aware of that. But now, looking back, I see that the Bennett family fulfilled all those needs. Especially my need to be the best in the world. To be recognized and to feel unique and special. They saw that I needed that care and attention and love. 40. Also in 1966, at Bennett's home, Schwarzenegger had the opportunity to meet childhood idol Reg Park, who became his friend and mentor. 40-41 The training paid off and, in 1967, Schwarzenegger won the title for the first time, becoming the youngest ever Mr. Universe at age 20. 32 He would go on to win the title another 3 times. 31 He then returned to Munich, where he attended business school and worked at Rolf Putziger's gym, where he worked and trained from 1966 to 1968 before returning to London in 1968 to win his next Mr. Universe title. 32 He frequently told Roger Seafield, his English coach and friend in Munich at the time, "I'm going to become the greatest actor." 42. Schwarzenegger, who dreamed of moving to the US since age 10, and saw bodybuilding as his avenue of opportunity. 43 Realized his dream by moving to the US in October 1968 at age 21, speaking little English. 31-17 There he trained at Gold's Gym in Venice, Los Angeles, California, under Joe Weider's supervision. From 1970 to 1974, one of Schwarzenegger's weight training partners was Rick Drazen, a professional wrestler who designed the original Gold's Gym logo in 1973. 44 Schwarzenegger also became good friends with professional wrestler superstar Billy Graham. In 1970, at age 23, Schwarzenegger captured his first Mr. Olympia title in New York, and would go on to win the title 7 times. 32. The immigration law firm Siskind and Susser has stated that Schwarzenegger may have been an illegal immigrant at some point in the late 1960s or early 1970s because of violations in the terms of his visa. 45 LA Weekly said in 2002 that Schwarzenegger was the most famous U.S. immigrant, who overcame a thick Austrian accent and transcended the unlikely background of bodybuilding to become the biggest movie star in the world in the 1990s. 43. In 1977, Schwarzenegger's autobiography and weight training guide, Arnold, The Education of a Bodybuilder, was a huge success. 17. In 1977, he posed for the gay magazine After Dark. 46-47 After taking an assortment of courses at Santa Monica College in California, including English classes, as well as further upper division classes at the University of California, Los Angeles as part of UCLA's extension program, he accumulated enough credits to be within striking distance of graduation. In 1979, he enrolled in the University of Wisconsin-Superior as a distance education student, completing most of his coursework by correspondence and flying out to Superior to meet professors and take final exams. In May 1980, he formally graduated and earned his bachelor's degree in business administration and marketing. 48-49 He received his United States citizenship in 1983. 50 He received an honorary degree from Stockton University in 2023. 51. Bodybuilding career. Schwarzenegger is considered among the most important figures in the history of bodybuilding, and his legacy is commemorated in the Arnold Classic annual bodybuilding competition. He has remained a prominent face in bodybuilding long after his retirement, in part because of his ownership of gyms and fitness magazines. He has presided over numerous contests and awards shows. For many years, he wrote a monthly column for the bodybuilding magazines Muscle and Fitness and Flex. Shortly after being elected governor, he was appointed the executive editor of both magazines, in a largely symbolic capacity. The magazines agreed to donate $250,000 a year to the governor's various physical fitness initiatives. When the deal, including the contract that gave Schwarzenegger at least $1 million a year, was made public in 2005, many criticized it as being a conflict of interest since the governor's office made decisions concerning regulation of dietary supplements in California. 52 Consequently, Schwarzenegger relinquished the executive editor role in 2005. 52 American Media Incorporated, which owns Muscle and Fitness and Flex, announced in March 2013 that Schwarzenegger had accepted their renewed offer to be executive editor of the magazines. 52. One of the first competitions he won was the Junior Mr. Europe contest in 1965. 17 He won Mr. Europe the following year, at age 19. 1732 He would go on to compete in many bodybuilding contests, and win most of them. His bodybuilding victories included 5 Mr. Universe wins, 4 NABA England, 1 IFBB USA, and 7 Mr. Olympia wins, a record which would stand until Lee Haney won his 8th consecutive Mr. Olympia title in 1991. Schwarzenegger continues to work out. When asked about his personal training during the 2011 Arnold Classic, he said that he was still working out a half an hour with weights every day. 53. Powerlifting/weightlifting. During Schwarzenegger's early years in bodybuilding, he also competed in several Olympic weightlifting and powerlifting contests. Schwarzenegger's first professional competition was in 1963-54, and he won 2 weightlifting contests in 1964 and 1965, as well as 2 powerlifting contests in 1966 and 1968. 2. In 1967, Schwarzenegger won the Munich stone lifting contest, in which a stone weighing 508 German pounds, 254 kilograms/560 pounds, is lifted between the legs while standing on 2 footrests. Personal records. Clean and press 264 pounds, 120 kilograms, 2. Snatch 243 pounds, 110 kilograms, 2. Clean and jerk 298 pounds, 135 kilograms, 2. Squat 545 pounds, 247 kilograms, 2. Bench press 520 pounds, 240 kilograms, 55-56. Deadlift 683 pounds, 310 kilograms, 2. Mr. Olympia. Schwarzenegger in 1974, doing the front double biceps pose. Schwarzenegger's goal was to become the greatest bodybuilder in the world, which meant becoming Mr. Olympia. 1732 His first attempt was in 1969, when he lost to 3-time champion Sergio Oliva. However, Schwarzenegger came back in 1970 and won the competition, making him the youngest ever Mr. Olympia at the age of 23, a record he still holds to this day. 32. He continued his winning streak in the 1971-1974 competitions. 32 He also toured different countries selling vitamins, as in Helsinki, Finland in 1972, when he lived at the YMCA Hotel Hospice, nowadays Hotel Arthur 57, on Boracatu and presented vitamin pills at the Stockman Shopping Center. 58-59. For the 1975 Mr. Olympia competition, filmmakers George Butler and Robert Fiore persuaded Schwarzenegger to compete again and film his training in the bodybuilding documentary called Pumping Iron. Schwarzenegger had only 3 months to prepare for the competition, after losing significant weight to appear in the film Stay Hungry with Jeff Bridges. Although lighter than usual, Schwarzenegger was once again in top form and won the title for the 6th consecutive time, 32 beating Franco Columbu. After the contest, Schwarzenegger announced his retirement from professional bodybuilding. 32. Schwarzenegger came out of retirement again to compete in the 1980 Mr. Olympia. 17 Schwarzenegger was training for his role in Conan, and he got into such good shape because of the running, horseback riding, and sword training, that he decided he wanted to win the Mr. Olympia contest one last time. He kept this plan a secret in the event that a training accident would prevent his entry and cause him to lose face. Schwarzenegger had been hired to provide color commentary for network television when he announced at the 11th hour that, while he was there, why not compete? Schwarzenegger ended up winning the event with only 7 weeks of preparation. Having been declared Mr. Olympia for a 7th time, Schwarzenegger then officially retired from competition. This victory, subject of the documentary The Comeback, was highly controversial, though, as fellow competitors and many observers felt that his lack of muscle mass, especially in his thighs, and subpar conditioning should have precluded him from winning against a very competitive lineup that year. 860 Mike Mentzer, in particular, felt cheated and withdrew from competitive bodybuilding after that contest. 6160. List of competitions. Arnold Schwarzenegger in bodybuilding competitions. Year competition 62 Location result and notes. 1965 Junior Mr. Europe Germany first. 1966 Best Built Man of Europe Germany first. 1966 Mr. Europe Germany first. 1966 International Powerlifting Championship Germany first. 1966 NABA Mr. Universe Amateur London second to Chet Jordan. 1967 NABA Mr. Universe Amateur London first. 1968 NABA Mr. Universe Professional London first. 1968 German Powerlifting Championship Germany first. 1968 IFBB Mr. International Mexico first. 1968 IFBB Mr. Universe Florida second to Frank Zane. 1969 IFBB Mr. Universe Amateur New York first. 1969 NABA Mr. Universe Professional London first. 1969 Mr. Olympia New York second to Sergio Oliva. 1970 NABA Mr. Universe Professional London first, defeated his idol Reg Park. 1970 AAU Mr. World Columbus, Ohio first, defeated Sergio Oliva for the first time. 1970 Mr. Olympia New York first. 1971 Mr. Olympia Paris first. 1972 Mr. Olympia Essen, Germany first. 1973 Mr. Olympia New York first. 1974 Mr. Olympia New York first. 1975 Mr. Olympia Pretoria, South Africa first, subject of the documentary Pumping Iron. 1980 Mr. Olympia Sydney first, subject of the documentary The Comeback. Statistics. Height, 6 feet 2 in, 1.88 m. Contest weight, 235 pounds, 107 kilograms, the lightest in 1980 Mr. Olympia, around 225 pounds, 102 kilograms, the heaviest in 1974 Mr. Olympia, around 250 pounds, 110 kilograms, 63. Off-season weight, 260 pounds, 118 kilograms. Chest, 57 in, 140 centimeters. Waist, 33 in, 84 centimeters. Arms, 22 in, 56 centimeters. Thighs, 29.5 in, 75 centimeters. Calves, 20 in, 51 centimeters, 64. Steroid use. Schwarzenegger has acknowledged using performance-enhancing anabolic steroids while they were legal, writing in 1977 that steroids were helpful to me in maintaining muscle size while on a strict diet in preparation for a contest. I did not use them for muscle growth, but rather for muscle maintenance when cutting up. 65 He has called the drugs tissue building. 66. In 1999, Schwarzenegger sued Willy Heep, a German doctor who publicly predicted his early death on the basis of a link between his steroid use and later heart problems. Since the doctor never examined him personally, Schwarzenegger collected a $10,000 libel judgment against him in a German court. 67 In 1999, Schwarzenegger also sued and settled with Globe, a US tabloid which had made similar predictions about the bodybuilder's future health. 68. Acting career. Main article, Arnold Schwarzenegger filmography. 1970–1981, early roles. Schwarzenegger wanted to move from bodybuilding into acting, finally achieving it when he was chosen to play the title role in Hercules in New York, 1970. Credited under the stage name Arnold Strong, his accent in the film was so thick that his lines were dubbed after production. 31 His second film appearance was as hired muscle for a mobster in The Long Goodbye, 1973, which was followed by a much more significant part in the film Stay Hungry, 1976, for which he won the Golden Globe Award for New Star of the Year actor. Schwarzenegger has discussed his early struggles in developing his acting career. It was very difficult for me in the beginning. I was told by agents and casting people that my body was too weird, that I had a funny accent, and that my name was too long. You name it, and they told me I had to change it. Basically, everywhere I turned, I was told that I had no chance. 22. Schwarzenegger during filming for Pumping Iron in 1975. Schwarzenegger drew attention and boosted his profile in the bodybuilding film Pumping Iron, 1977, 1131 elements of which were dramatized. In 1991, he purchased the rights to the film, its outtakes, and associated still photography. 69 In 1977, he made guest appearances in single episodes of the ABC sitcom The San Pedro Beach Bums and the ABC police procedural The Streets of San Francisco. Schwarzenegger auditioned for the title role of the Incredible Hulk, but did not win the role because of his height. Later, Lou Ferrigno got the part of Dr. David Banner's alter ego. Schwarzenegger appeared with Kirk Douglas and Anne Margaret in the 1979 comedy The Villain. In 1980, he starred in a biographical film of the 1950s actress Jane Mansfield as Mansfield's husband, Mickey Hargitay. 1982–2003, breakthrough and established action star. Schwarzenegger, pictured with 1987 world champion American Karen Marshall, presenting awards at the USA Weightlifting Hall of Fame in 2011 in Columbus, Ohio. Schwarzenegger's breakthrough film was the sword and sorcery epic Conan the Barbarian in 1982, which was a box office hit. 11 This was followed by a sequel, Conan the Destroyer, in 1984, although it was not as successful as its predecessor. 70 In 1983, Schwarzenegger starred in the promotional video Carnival in Rio. 71 In 1984, he made his first appearance as the eponymous character in James Cameron's science fiction action film The Terminator. 11/31/72 It has been called his acting career's signature role. 73 Following this, Schwarzenegger made another sword and sorcery film, Red Sonja, in 1985. 70 During the 1980s, audiences had an appetite for action films, with both Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone becoming international stars. 31 During the Schwarzenegger-Stallone rivalry they attacked each other in the press, and tried to surpass the other with more on-screen killings and larger weapons. 74 Schwarzenegger's roles reflected his sense of humor, separating him from more serious action hero films. He made a number of successful action films in the 1980s, such as Commando, 1985, Raw Deal, 1986, The Running Man, 1987, Predator, 1987, and Red Heat, 1988. Footprints and handprints of Arnold Schwarzenegger in front of the Grauman's Chinese Theater with his catchphrase "I'll be back." Twins, 1988, a comedy with Danny DeVito, also proved successful. Speaking about the film, Schwarzenegger said, "When I was the action hero in the 80s and 90s, they wouldn't allow me to do any comedy or anything for kids. They were like, no, we know we are going to make money with you if you do action movies. So literally for Twins I took no salary, I just wanted to give it a shot. And it just happened to be my first movie to make $100 million domestically. So they realized that it works, Schwarzenegger can cross over." 75 The film netted Schwarzenegger the biggest paycheck of his career as he received over $40 million of the film's profits after expenses. 76. Total Recall, 1990, netted Schwarzenegger $10 million, equivalent to $24.1 million today, and 15% of the film's gross. A science fiction script, the film was based on the Philip K. Dick short story We Can Remember It For You Wholesale. Kindergarten Cop, 1990, reunited him with director Yvonne Reitman, who directed him in Twins. Schwarzenegger had a brief foray into directing, first with a 1990 episode of the TV series Tales from the Crypt, The Switch, 77, and then with the 1992 telemovie Christmas in Connecticut. 78 He has not directed since. Schwarzenegger's commercial peak was his return as the title character in Terminator 2, Judgment Day, 1991, which was the highest-grossing film of the year. Film critic Roger Ebert commented that Schwarzenegger's genius as a movie star is to find roles that build on, rather than undermine, his physical and vocal characteristics. 79 In 1993, the National Association of Theater Owners named him the International Star of the Decade. 17 His next film project, the 1993 self-aware action comedy spoof Last Action Hero, was released opposite Jurassic Park, and did not do well at the box office. His next film, the comedy drama True Lies, 1994, was a popular spy film and saw Schwarzenegger reunited with James Cameron. That same year, the comedy Junior was released, the last of Schwarzenegger's 3 collaborations with Yvonne Reitman and again CO starring Danny DeVito. This film brought him his second Golden Globe nomination, this time for Best Actor Motion Picture Musical or Comedy. Around this time, Schwarzenegger was offered a lead role in the well-received, box office hit The Rock but turned it down, a decision he came to regret in the decades that passed. He ultimately chose to make Eraser, 1996, the Christmas comedy Jingle All the Way, 1996, and the comic book-based Batman and Robin, 1997, in which he played the supervillain Mr. Freeze instead. This was his final film before taking time to recuperate from a back injury. Citation needed. Following the critical failure of Batman and Robin, his film career and box office prominence went into decline. He returned with the supernatural thriller End of Days, 1999, later followed by the action films The Sixth Day, 2000, and Collateral Damage, 2002, both of which failed to do well at the box office. In 2003, he made his third appearance as the title character in Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, which went on to earn over $150 million domestically, equivalent to $256 million today. 81. Arnold Schwarzenegger star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. In tribute to Schwarzenegger in 2002, Forum Stadtpark, a local cultural association, proposed plans to build a 25-meter-tall, 80 feet, Terminator statue in a park in central Graz. Schwarzenegger reportedly said he was flattered, but thought the money would be better spent on social projects and the Special Olympics. 82. 2004-2010, hiatus. His film appearances after becoming governor of California included a 3-second cameo appearance in The Rundown and the 2004 remake of Around the World in 80 Days. In 2005, he appeared as himself in the film The Kid and I. He voiced Baron von Steuben in the Liberty's Kids episode Valley Forge. He had been rumored to be appearing in Terminator Salvation as the original T-800. He denied his involvement 83, but he ultimately did appear briefly via his image being inserted into the movie from stock footage of the first Terminator film. 84-85 Schwarzenegger appeared in Sylvester Stallone's The Expendables, 2010, where he made a cameo appearance. 2011-2019, returned to acting and franchise success. In January 2011, just weeks after leaving office in California, Schwarzenegger announced that he was reading several new scripts for future films, one of them being the World War II action drama With Wings as Eagles, written by Randall Wallace, based on a true story. 86-87. On March 6, 2011, at the Arnold Seminar of the Arnold Classic, Schwarzenegger revealed that he was being considered for several films, including sequels to The Terminator and remakes of Predator and The Running Man, and that he was packaging a comic book character. 88 The character was later revealed to be the Governator, star of the comic book and animated series of the same name. Schwarzenegger inspired the character and CO developed it with Stan Lee, who would have produced the series. Schwarzenegger would have voiced the Governator. 89-90-91-92. On May 20, 2011, Schwarzenegger's Entertainment Council announced that all film projects currently in development were being halted. Schwarzenegger is focusing on personal matters and is not willing to commit to any production schedules or timelines. 93 On July 11, 2011, it was announced that Schwarzenegger was considering a comeback film, despite legal problems related to his divorce. 94 He starred in The Expendables 2, 2012, as Trench Mauser. 95 and starred in The Last Stand, 2013, his first leading role in 10 years, An Escape Plan, 2013, his first CO starring role alongside Sylvester Stallone. He starred in Sabotage, released in March 2014, and returned as Trench Mauser in The Expendables 3, released in August 2014. He starred in the fifth Terminator film Terminator Genesis in 2015. 11/31/72-96 He then planned to reprise his role as Conan the Barbarian in The Legend of Conan 97-98, later renamed Conan the Conqueror. 99 However, in April 2017, producer Chris Morgan stated that Universal had dropped the project, although there was a possibility of a TV show. The story of the film was supposed to be set 30 years after the first, with some inspiration from Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven. 100. In September 2015, the media announced that Schwarzenegger was to replace Donald Trump as host of the new Celebrity Apprentice. 101 This show, the 15th season of The Apprentice, aired during the 2016-2017 TV season. In the show, he used the phrases "You're terminated" and "Get to the choppa," which are quotes from some of his famous roles, The Terminator and Predator, respectively, when firing the contestants. 102-103 In March 2017, following repeated criticisms from Trump, Schwarzenegger announced that he would not return for another season on the show. He also reacted to Trump's remarks in January 2017 via Instagram. "Hey, Donald, I have a great idea. Why don't we switch jobs? You take over TV because you are such an expert in ratings, and I take over your job, and then people can finally sleep comfortably again. 104. In August 2016, his filming of action comedy Killing Gunter was temporarily interrupted by bank robbers near the filming location in Surrey, British Columbia. 105. The film was released in September 2017. He was announced to star and produce in a film about the ruins of Sangxingdui called The Guest of Sangxingdui as an ambassador. 106. On February 6, 2018, Amazon Studios announced they were working with Schwarzenegger to develop a new series, Outrider, in which he will star and executive produce. The Western drama set in the Oklahoma Indian Territory in the late 19th century will follow a deputy, portrayed by Schwarzenegger, who is tasked with apprehending a legendary outlaw in the wilderness, but is forced to partner with a ruthless federal marshal to make sure justice is properly served. The series would have been Schwarzenegger's first major scripted TV role 107 but was never completed. Schwarzenegger returned to the Terminator franchise with Terminator, Dark Fate, which was released on November 1, 2019. It was produced by the series' CEO creator James Cameron, who directed him previously in the first two films in the series and in True Lies. 108-109. It was shot in Almeria, Hungary, and the US. 110. 2020-present, streaming projects. In 2021, Schwarzenegger headlined the animated superhero streaming series Superhero Kindergarten on Cartoon Channel. He voiced the lead character Captain Fantastic, created by Stan Lee, Andy Hayward, and himself. 111. He made a cameo in FX's adult animated sitcom Little Demon during an episode. 112. He starred in Netflix docu-series based on his own life Arnold, 2023, covering his bodybuilding, acting, and political career. 113. For the first time, Schwarzenegger played a leading role in a television series, Fubar, an action comedy on Netflix. He portrayed Luke Brunner, a veteran CIA operator. The show received mixed reviews but had a successful launch week, debuting at number 1. 114-115. It was greenlit for a second season, which released in 2025. 116. He voice-acted the boastful monarch King Eelstrom in the episode New World, the once and future king in the anthology series Secret Level, 2024, on Amazon Prime. His character was a parody of his own Conan character, endlessly failing to conquer an island, only to die and resurrect repeatedly. 117. Political career. Main article, Governorship of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Early politics. Vice President Dick Cheney meets with Schwarzenegger for the first time at the White House. Schwarzenegger with President Ronald Reagan in 1984. Schwarzenegger has been a registered Republican for many years. When he was an actor, his political views were always well known as they contrasted with those of many other prominent Hollywood stars, who are generally considered to be a left-wing and Democratic-leaning community. At the 2004 Republican National Convention, Schwarzenegger gave a speech and explained that he was a Republican because he believed the Democrats of the 1960s sounded too much like Austrian socialists. 118. I finally arrived here in 1968. What a special day it was. I remember I arrived here with empty pockets but full of dreams, full of determination, full of desire. The presidential campaign was in full swing. I remember watching the Nixon-Humphrey presidential race on TV. A friend of mine who spoke German and English translated for me. I heard Humphrey saying things that sounded like socialism, which I had just left. But then I heard Nixon speak. He was talking about free enterprise, getting the government off your back, lowering the taxes and strengthening the military. Listening to Nixon speak sounded more like a breath of fresh air. I said to my friend, I said, what party is he? My friend said, he's a Republican. I said, then I am a Republican. And I have been a Republican ever since. Arnold Schwarzenegger on Capitol Hill in 1991 for an event related to the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports. In 1985, Schwarzenegger appeared in Stop the Madness, an anti-drug music video sponsored by the Reagan administration. He first came to wide public notice as a Republican during the 1988 presidential election, accompanying then Vice President George H.W. Bush at a campaign rally. 119. Schwarzenegger famously introduced the first episode of the 1990 Milton Friedman-hosted PBS series Free to Choose, stating, I truly believe that the series has changed my life, and when you have such a powerful experience as that, I think you shouldn't keep it to yourself, so I wanted to share it with you. Being free to choose for me means being free to make your own decisions, free to live your own life, pursue your own goals, chase your own rainbow without the government breathing down on your neck or standing on your shoes. For me that meant coming here to America, because I came from a socialistic country where the government controls the economy. It's a place where you can hear 18-year-old kids already talking about their pension. But me, I wanted more. I wanted to be the best. Individualism like that is incompatible with socialism. So I felt I had to come to America. 121. Schwarzenegger goes on to tell of how he and his then-wife Maria Shriver were in Palm Springs preparing to play a game of mixed doubles when Milton Friedman's famous show came on the television. Schwarzenegger recalls that while watching Friedman's Free to Choose, Schwarzenegger recognized Friedman from the study of my own degree in economics, but I didn't know I was watching Free to Choose. It knocked me out. Dr. Friedman expressed, validated, and explained everything I ever thought or experienced or observed about the way the economy works, and I guess I was really ready to hear it. 121. Numerous critics state that Schwarzenegger strayed from much of Friedman's economic ways of thinking in later years, especially upon being elected governor of California from 2003 through 2011. 122. 123. Schwarzenegger's first political appointment was as chairman of the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports, on which he served from 1990 to 1993. 17. He was nominated by the then-President Bush, who dubbed him Conan the Republican. He later served as chairman for the California Governor's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports under Governor Pete Wilson. Between 1993 and 1994, Schwarzenegger was a Red Cross ambassador, a ceremonial role fulfilled by celebrities, recording several television and radio public service announcements to donate blood. In an interview with Talk magazine in late 1999, Schwarzenegger was asked if he thought of running for office. He replied, "I think about it many times. The possibility is there because I feel it inside." The Hollywood Reporter claimed shortly after that Schwarzenegger sought to end speculation that he might run for governor of California. Following his initial comments, Schwarzenegger said, "I'm in show business, I am in the middle of my career. Why would I go away from that and jump into something else?" 124. Governor of California. Main article, Governorship of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Governator redirects here. For the song, see American Idiot. Schwarzenegger's official portrait as Governor of California, 2003. Schwarzenegger announced his candidacy in the 2003 California recall election for Governor of California on the August 6, 2003, episode of The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. 31. Schwarzenegger had the most name recognition in a crowded field of candidates, but he had never held public office and his political views were unknown to most Californians. His candidacy immediately became national and international news, with media outlets dubbing him the Governator, referring to the Terminator movies, see above, and The Running Man, the name of another one of his films, and calling the recall election Total Recall, another movie starring Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger declined to participate in several debates with other recall replacement candidates, and appeared in only one debate on September 24, 2003. 125. President George W. Bush meets with Schwarzenegger after his successful election to the California governorship. On October 7, 2003, the recall election resulted in Governor Gray Davis being removed from office with 55.4% of the yes vote in favor of a recall. Schwarzenegger was elected governor of California under the second question on the ballot with 48.6% of the vote to choose a successor to Davis. Schwarzenegger defeated Democrat Cruz Bustamante, fellow Republican Tom McClintock, and others. His nearest rival, Bustamante, received 31% of the vote. In total, Schwarzenegger won the election by about 1.3 million votes. Under the regulations of the California Constitution, no runoff election was required. Schwarzenegger was the second foreign-born governor of California after Irish-born Governor John G. Downey in 1862. Schwarzenegger is a moderate Republican. 126. He says he is fiscally conservative and socially liberal. 127. On the issue of abortion, he describes himself as pro-choice, but supports parental notification for minors and a ban on partial birth abortion. 128. He has supported gay rights, such as domestic partnerships, and he performed a same-sex marriage as governor. 129. However, Schwarzenegger vetoed bills that would have legalized same-sex marriage in California in 2005 and 2007. 130. 131. He additionally vetoed two bills that would have implemented a single-payer healthcare system in California in 2006. 132. 133 and 2008. 134 respectively. Schwarzenegger was entrenched in what he considered to be his mandate in cleaning up political gridlock. Building on a catchphrase from the sketch Hans and Franz from Saturday Night Live, which partly parodied his bodybuilding career, Schwarzenegger called the Democratic state politicians girly men. 135. Arnold Schwarzenegger in June 2010. Schwarzenegger's early victories included repealing an unpopular increase in the vehicle registration fee as well as preventing driver's licenses from being given out to illegal immigrants, but later he began to feel the backlash when powerful state unions began to oppose his various initiatives. Key among his reckoning with political realities was a special election he called in November 2005, in which 4 ballot measures he sponsored were defeated. Schwarzenegger accepted personal responsibility for the defeats and vowed to continue to seek consensus for the people of California. He later commented that no one could win if the opposition raised $160 million to defeat you. The U.S. Supreme Court later found the Public Employee Union's use of compulsory fundraising during the campaign had been illegal in Knox v. Service Employees International Union, Local 1000. 136. Schwarzenegger with Russian President Dmitry Medvedev and Cisco CEO John Chambers. Schwarzenegger, against the advice of fellow Republican strategists, appointed a Democrat, Susan Kennedy, as his chief of staff. He gradually moved towards a more politically moderate position, determined to build a winning legacy with only a short time to go until the next gubernatorial election. Citation needed. Schwarzenegger ran for re-election against Democrat Phil Angelides, the California state treasurer, in the 2006 elections, held on November 7, 2006. Despite a poor year nationally for the Republican Party, Schwarzenegger won re-election with 56.0% of the vote compared with 38.9% for Angelides, a margin of well over 1 million votes. 137. Around this time, many commentators saw Schwarzenegger as moving away from the right and towards the center of the political spectrum. After hearing a speech by Schwarzenegger at the 2006 Martin Luther King Jr. Day breakfast, in which Schwarzenegger said, in part, how wrong I was when I said everyone has an equal opportunity to make it in America, the state of California does not provide equal education for all of our children, San Francisco Mayor and future Governor of California Gavin Newsom said, he's becoming a Democrat. He's running back, not even to the center. I would say center-left. 138. Some speculated that Schwarzenegger might run for the United States Senate in 2010, as his governorship would be term-limited by that time. Such rumors turned out to be false. 139-140. With Schwarzenegger and Senator Dianne Feinstein behind him, President George W. Bush comments on wildfires and firefighting efforts in California, October 2007. Wendy Lee, who wrote an unofficial biography on Schwarzenegger, claims he plotted his political rise from an early age using the movie business and bodybuilding as the means to escape a depressing home. 24. Lee portrays Schwarzenegger as obsessed with power and quotes him as saying, I wanted to be part of the small percentage of people who were leaders, not the large mass of followers. I think it is because I saw leaders use 100% of their potential. I was always fascinated by people in control of other people. 24. Schwarzenegger has said that it was never his intention to enter politics, but he says, I married into a political family. You get together with them and you hear about policy, about reaching out to help people. I was exposed to the idea of being a public servant and Eunice and Sergeant Shriver became my heroes. 43. Eunice Kennedy Shriver was the sister of John F. Kennedy, and mother-in-law to Schwarzenegger. Sergeant Shriver is husband to Eunice and father-in-law to Schwarzenegger. Citation needed. Schwarzenegger cannot run for U.S. president as he is not a natural-born citizen of the United States. Schwarzenegger is a dual Austrian and United States citizen. 141. He has held Austrian citizenship since birth and U.S. citizenship since becoming naturalized in 1983. Being Austrian and thus European, he was able to win the 2007 European Voice Campaigner of the Year award for taking action against climate change with the California Global Warming Solutions Act of 2006 and plans to introduce an emissions trading scheme with other U.S. states and possibly with the EU. 142. Governor Schwarzenegger during his visit to Naval Medical Center in San Diego, July 2010. Because of his personal wealth from his acting career, Schwarzenegger did not accept his governor's salary of $175,000 per year. 143. Schwarzenegger's endorsement in the Republican primaries of the 2008 presidential election was highly sought. Despite being good friends with candidates Rudy Giuliani and Senator John McCain, Schwarzenegger remained neutral throughout 2007 and early 2008. Giuliani dropped out of the presidential race on January 30, 2008, largely because of a poor showing in Florida, and endorsed McCain. Later that night, Schwarzenegger was in the audience at a Republican debate at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in California. The following day, he endorsed McCain, joking, "It's Rudy's fault," in reference to his friendships with both candidates and that he could not make up his mind. Schwarzenegger's endorsement was thought to be a boost for Senator McCain's campaign. Both spoke about their concerns for the environment and economy. 144. In its April 2010 report, progressive ethics watchdog group Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington named Schwarzenegger one of 11 worst governors in the United States because of various ethics issues throughout Schwarzenegger's term as governor. 145-146. Governor Schwarzenegger played a significant role in opposing Proposition 66, a proposed amendment of the Californian Three Strikes Law, in November 2004. This amendment would have required the third felony to be either violent or serious to mandate a 25 years to life sentence. In the last week before the ballot, Schwarzenegger launched an intense campaign 147 against Proposition 66. 148. He stated that it would release 26,000 dangerous criminals and rapists. 149. Although he began his tenure as governor with record high approval ratings, as high as 65% in May 2004, 150 he left office with a near-record low 23%, 151 only 1% higher than that of Gray Davis, his predecessor, when he was recalled in October 2003. 152. Death of Luis Santos. Main article, Death of Luis Santos. In May 2010, Esteban Núñez pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter and was sentenced to 16 years in prison for the death of Luis Santos. Núñez is the son of Fabian Núñez, then California Assembly Speaker of the House and a close friend and staunch political ally of then-Governor Schwarzenegger. 153, 154, 155, 156. As a personal favor to a friend, just hours before he left office, and as one of his last official acts, Schwarzenegger commuted Núñez's sentence by more than half, to 7 years. 155, 157, 158. He believed that Núñez's sentence was excessive in comparison with the same prison term imposed on Ryan Jett, the man who fatally stabbed Santos. 159. Against protocol, Schwarzenegger did not inform Santos' family or the San Diego County prosecutors about the commutation. They learned about it in a call from a reporter. 158. The Santos family, along with the San Diego District Attorney, sued to stop the commutation, claiming that it violated Mossie's law. In September 2012, Sacramento County Superior Court Judge Lloyd Connolly stated, based on the evidentiary records before this court involving this case, there was an abuse of discretion. This was a distasteful commutation. It was repugnant to the bulk of the citizenry of this state. However, Connolly ruled that Schwarzenegger remained within his executive powers as governor. 153. Subsequently, as a direct result of the way the commutation was handled, Governor Jerry Brown signed a bipartisan bill that allows offenders' victims and their families to be notified at least 10 days before any commutations. 160. Núñez was released from prison after serving less than 6 years. 161. Allegations of sexual misconduct. Code Pink protesting against Schwarzenegger. During his initial campaign for governor in 2003, allegations of sexual and personal misconduct were raised against Schwarzenegger. 162. Within the last 5 days before the election, news reports appeared in the Los Angeles Times recounting decades-old allegations of sexual misconduct from 6 individual women. 163. 162. Schwarzenegger responded to the allegations in 2004, admitting that he has behaved badly sometimes and apologized, but also stated that a lot of what you see in the stories is not true. 164. One of the women who came forward was British television personality Anna Richardson, who settled a libel lawsuit in August 2006 against Schwarzenegger, his top aide, Sean Walsh, and his publicist, Cheryl Main. 165. A joint statement read, "The parties are content to put this matter behind them and are pleased that this legal dispute has now been settled." 165. 166. In 2023, Schwarzenegger revisited the issue while promoting his new 3-part biographical documentary on Netflix called Arnold. Schwarzenegger stated that he was totally wrong. 167. Marijuana use. During this time, a 1977 interview in Adult magazine regained attention, in which Schwarzenegger discussed using substances such as marijuana. 168. Schwarzenegger is shown smoking a marijuana joint after winning Mr. Olympia in 1975 in the documentary film Pumping Iron, 1977. In an interview with GQ magazine in October 2007, Schwarzenegger said, "Marijuana is not a drug. It's a leaf. My drug was pumping iron, trust me." 169. His spokesperson later said the comment was meant to be a joke. 169. Citizenship. Schwarzenegger in 2004. Schwarzenegger became a naturalized U.S. citizen on September 17, 1983. 170. Shortly before he gained his citizenship, he asked the Austrian authorities for the right to keep his Austrian citizenship, as Austria does not usually allow dual citizenship. His request was granted, and he retained his Austrian citizenship. 171. In 2005, Peter Pilz, a member of the Austrian parliament from the Austrian Green Party, unsuccessfully advocated for Parliament to revoke Schwarzenegger's Austrian citizenship under Article 33 of the Austrian Citizenship Act, which states, "A citizen, who is in the public service of a foreign country, shall be deprived of his citizenship if he heavily damages the reputation or the interests of the Austrian Republic." Pilz felt that Schwarzenegger's decision not to intervene in the executions of Donald Beardsley and Stanley Williams had done so. 141. The death penalty in Austria had been abolished in 1968. Environmental record. On September 27, 2006, Schwarzenegger signed the Global Warming Solutions Act of 2006, creating the nation's first cap on greenhouse gas emissions. The law set new regulations on the amount of emissions utilities, refineries, and manufacturing plants are allowed to release into the atmosphere. Schwarzenegger also signed a second global warming bill that prohibits large utilities and corporations in California from making long-term contracts with suppliers who do not meet the state's greenhouse gas emission standards. The two bills are part of a plan to reduce California's emissions by 25% to 1990s levels by 2020. In 2005, Schwarzenegger issued an executive order calling to reduce greenhouse gases to 80% below 1990 levels by 2050. 172. Schwarzenegger signed another executive order on October 17, 2006, allowing California to work with the Northeast's Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. They plan to reduce carbon dioxide emissions by issuing a limited amount of carbon credits to each power plant in participating states. Any power plants that exceed emissions for the number of carbon credits will have to purchase more credits to cover the difference. The plan took effect in 2009. 173. In addition to using his political power to fight global warming, the governor has taken steps at his home to reduce his personal carbon footprint. Schwarzenegger has adapted one of his Hummers to run on hydrogen and another to run on biofuels. He has also installed solar panels to heat his home. 174. In respect for his contribution to the direction of the U.S. motor industry, Schwarzenegger was invited to open the 2009 SAE World Congress in Detroit on April 20, 2009. 175. In 2011, Schwarzenegger founded the R20 Regions of Climate Action to develop a sustainable, low-carbon economy. 176. In 2017, he joined French President Emmanuel Macron in calling for the adoption of a global pact for the environment. 177. In 2017, Schwarzenegger launched the Austrian World Summit 178, an international climate conference that is held annually in Vienna, Austria. The Austrian World Summit is organized by the Schwarzenegger Climate Initiative and aims is to bring together representatives from politics, civil society, and business to create a broad alliance for climate protection and to identify concrete solutions to the climate crisis. Electoral history. 2003 California gubernatorial recall election. Party candidate votes %. Republican Arnold Schwarzenegger 4,206,284 48.6. Democratic Cruz Bustamante 2,724,874 31.5. Republican Tom McClintock 1,161,287 13.5. Green Peter Camejo 242,247 2.8. 2006 California gubernatorial election. Party candidate votes %. Republican Arnold Schwarzenegger, incumbent, 4,850,157 55.9. Democratic Phil Angelides 3,376,732 38.9. Green Peter Camejo 205,995 2.4. Libertarian Art Olivier 114,329 1.3. Presidential ambitions. Presidential aspirations by the Austrian-born Schwarzenegger would be blocked by a constitutional hurdle. Article 2, Section I, Clause V, prevents individuals who are not natural-born citizens of the United States from assuming the office. The Equal Opportunity to Govern Amendment in 2003 was widely accredited as the Amend for Arnold Bill, which would have added an amendment to the U.S. Constitution allowing his run. In 2004, the Amend for Arnold campaign was launched, featuring a website and TV advertising promotion. 179 180. In June 2007, Schwarzenegger was featured on the cover of Time magazine with Michael Bloomberg, and subsequently, the two joked about a presidential ticket together. 181 182. Business career. Schwarzenegger has also enjoyed a highly successful business career. 2443 Following his move to the United States, Schwarzenegger became a prolific goal setter and would write his objectives at the start of the year on index cards, like starting a mail-order business or buying a new car and succeed in doing so. 37 As a result of his early business and investment success, Schwarzenegger became a millionaire by the age of 25, well before making a name for himself in Hollywood. His path to financial independence came as a result of his success as a proactive businessman and investor involved with a series of lucrative business ventures and real estate investments. 183. Early ventures. In 1968, Schwarzenegger and fellow bodybuilder Franco Columbu started a bricklaying business. The business flourished thanks to the pair's marketing savvy and an increased demand following the 1971 San Fernando earthquake. 184 185 When signs of profitability emerged as business began to pick up, Schwarzenegger and Columbu rolled over the profits from their bricklaying venture to go on and start their own mail-order business that sold bodybuilding and fitness-related equipment and instructional tapes. 17 184. Investments. Schwarzenegger transferred profits from the mail-order business and his bodybuilding competition winnings by rolling the proceeds into his first real estate investment, an apartment building he purchased for $10,000. Schwarzenegger made millions of dollars by investing in a variety of real estate holding companies both within the United States and around the world. 186–187 Schwarzenegger and fellow Hollywood veteran actor and industry adversary Sylvester Stallone brought their long-storied industry rivalry to an end by both investing in the Planet Hollywood 188 chain of international theme restaurants, modeled after the Hard Rock Cafe, along with Bruce Willis and Demi Moore. However, Schwarzenegger severed his financial ties with the chain in early 2000. 189–190 Schwarzenegger remarked that the restaurant did not achieve the success that he had hoped for, claiming he wanted to focus his attention on new U.S. global business ventures and his then burgeoning acting career. 189. Schwarzenegger also made a private commercial real estate investment in the Easton Town Center, a shopping mall based in Columbus, Ohio. 191 He has talked about some of the mentors who have helped him over the years in business. I couldn't have learned about business without a parade of teachers guiding me, from Milton Friedman to Donald Trump, and now, Leigh Wexner and Warren Buffett. I even learned a thing or two from Planet Hollywood, such as when to get out. And I did. 33 He has significant equity ownership in Dimensional Fund Advisors, an Austin-based investment firm. 192 Schwarzenegger is also the owner of Arnold Sports Festival, a sports and fitness festival which he started in 1989 and which is held annually in Columbus, Ohio. It is a festival that hosts thousands of international health and fitness professionals, which has also expanded into a 3-day expo. He also owns a film production company called Oak Productions, Inc., and Fitness Publications, a joint book publishing venture partnered with Simon & Schuster. 193. In 2018, Schwarzenegger partnered with basketball player LeBron James to establish Ladder, a company that developed nutritional supplements to help athletes with severe cramps. The pair sold Ladder to OpenFit for an undisclosed amount in 2020 after reporting more than $4 million in sales for that year. 194. Restaurant. In 1992, Schwarzenegger and his wife opened a restaurant in Santa Monica called Schütze on Main. Schütze literally means little treasure, and colloquially honey or darling in German. In 1998, he sold his restaurant. 195. Wealth. See also, List of richest American politicians. In 2024, Forbes estimated that Schwarzenegger was a billionaire. 196. In June 1997, Schwarzenegger spent $38 million on a private Gulfstream jet. 197. Regarding his private fortune, Schwarzenegger once quipped, "Money doesn't make you happy. I now have $50 million, but I was just as happy when I had $48 million." 24. In 2003, Schwarzenegger's net worth was conservatively estimated at $100 million to $200 million. 198. After separating from his wife, Maria Shriver, in 2011, it was estimated that his net worth had been approximately $400 million, and even as high as $800 million, based on tax returns he filed in 2006. 199. Commercial advertisements. Schwarzenegger has also appeared in a series of commercials for the Machine Zone game Mobile Strike as a military commander and spokesman. 200. Personal life. Early relationships. In 1969, Schwarzenegger met Barbara Outland, later Barbara Outland Baker, an English teacher with whom he lived until 1974. 201. The couple first met 6 to 8 months after his arrival in the U.S. Their first date was watching the first Apollo moon landing on television. 37. They shared an apartment in Santa Monica, California, for 3.5 years, and having little money, they would visit the beach all day or have barbecues in the backyard. 37. Although Baker claims that when she first met Schwarzenegger, he had little understanding of polite society and she found him a turn-off, she says, "He's as much a self-made man as it's possible to be. He never got encouragement from his parents, his family, his brother. He just had this huge determination to prove himself, and that was very attractive. I'll go to my grave knowing Arnold loved me." 37. Schwarzenegger said of Baker in his 1977 memoir, "Basically it came down to this: she was a well-balanced woman who wanted an ordinary, solid life, and I was not a well-balanced man, and hated the very idea of ordinary life." 201. Baker has described Schwarzenegger as a joyful personality, totally charismatic, adventurous, and athletic, but claims that towards the end of the relationship he became insufferable, classically conceited, the world revolved around him. 202. Baker published her memoir in 2006, Arnold and Me, in the Shadow of the Austrian Oak. 203. Although Baker painted an unflattering portrait of her former lover at times, Schwarzenegger actually contributed to the tell-all book with a foreword, and also met with Baker for 3 hours. 203. Baker claims that she only learned of his being unfaithful after they split, and talks of a turbulent and passionate love life. 203. Schwarzenegger has made it clear that their respective recollection of events can differ. 203. Schwarzenegger met his next lover, Beverly Hills hairdresser's assistant Sue Murray, on Venice Beach in July 1977. According to Murray, the couple led an open relationship. "We were faithful when we were both in LA, but when he was out of town, we were free to do whatever we wanted. 25. Schwarzenegger met television journalist Maria Shriver, niece of President John F. Kennedy, at the Robert F. Kennedy tennis tournament in August 1977. He went on to have a relationship with both Murray and Shriver until August 1978 when Murray, who knew of his relationship with Shriver, issued an ultimatum. 25. Marriage and family. Schwarzenegger with then-wife Maria Shriver at the 2007 Special Olympics in Shanghai. On April 26, 1986, Schwarzenegger married Shriver in Hyannis, Massachusetts. 204 They have 4 children, Catherine, Christina, Patrick, and Christopher. 205 206 207 208 All of their children were born in Los Angeles. 209 The family lived in an 11,000 square foot, 1,000 square meters, home in the Brentwood neighborhood of Los Angeles, California. 210 211 with vacation homes in Sun Valley, Idaho, and Hyannisport, Massachusetts. 212 They attended St. Monica's Catholic Church. 213. Divorce. Schwarzenegger and his son Patrick at Edwards Air Force Base in December 2002. On May 9, 2011, Shriver and Schwarzenegger ended their relationship after 25 years of marriage, with Shriver moving out of their Brentwood mansion. 214 215 216. Pursuant to the divorce judgment, Schwarzenegger kept the Brentwood home, while Shriver purchased a new home nearby so that the children could travel between their parents' homes. They shared custody of the 2 youngest children. 217 Schwarzenegger came under fire after the initial petition did not include spousal support and a reimbursement of attorney's fees. 97 However, he claims this was not intentional and that he signed the initial documents without having properly read them. 97 He filed amended divorce papers remedying this. 97 218 Schwarzenegger and Shriver finalized their divorce in 2021, 10 years after separating. 219 220. In June 2022, a jury ruled that Maria Shriver was entitled to half of her ex-husband's post-divorce savings that he earned from 1986 to 2011, including a pension. 221. On May 16, 2011, the Los Angeles Times revealed that Schwarzenegger had fathered a son, Joseph, more than 14 years earlier with an employee in their household, Mildred Patricia Patty Bina. 222 223 224 After leaving the governor's office I told my wife about this event, which occurred over a decade ago, Schwarzenegger said to the Times. In the statement, Schwarzenegger did not mention that he had confessed to his wife only after she had confronted him with the information, which she had done after confirming with the housekeeper what she had suspected about the child. 225 Bina is of Guatemalan origin. She was employed by the family for 20 years and retired in January 2011. 226 The pregnant Bina was working in the home while Shriver was pregnant with the youngest of the couple's 4 children. 227 Bina's son with Schwarzenegger was born 5 days after Shriver gave birth. 228 229 Schwarzenegger said that it took 7 or 8 years before he found out that he had fathered a child with his housekeeper. It was not until the boy started looking like him, that he put things together. 230 Schwarzenegger has taken financial responsibility for the child from the start and continued to provide support. 231 KNX 1070 Radio reported that, in 2010, he bought a new 4-bedroom house with a pool for Bina and their son in Bakersfield, California. 232 Bina separated from her husband, Rogelio, a few months after Joseph's birth. She filed for divorce in 2008. 233 Rogelio said that the child's birth certificate was falsified and that he planned to sue Schwarzenegger for engaging in conspiracy to falsify a public document, a serious crime in California. 234. When asked in January 2014, of all the things you are famous for, which are you least proud of? Schwarzenegger replied, I'm least proud of the mistakes I made that caused my family pain and split us up. 235 236 237 238. Accidents, injuries, and other health problems. Health problems. Schwarzenegger was born with a bicuspid aortic valve, an aortic valve with only 2 leaflets, where a normal aortic valve has 3. 239 240 He opted in 1997 for a replacement heart valve made from his own pulmonary valve, which itself was replaced with a cadaveric pulmonic valve. In a Ross procedure, medical experts predicted he would require pulmonic heart valve replacement surgery within the next 2 to 8 years because his valve would progressively degrade. Schwarzenegger apparently opted against a mechanical valve, the only permanent solution available at the time of his surgery, because it would have sharply limited his physical activity and capacity to exercise. 241. On March 29, 2018, Schwarzenegger underwent emergency open-heart surgery for replacement of his replacement pulmonic valve. 242 He said about his recovery, I underwent open-heart surgery this spring, I had to use a walker. I had to do breathing exercises 5 times a day to retrain my lungs. I was frustrated and angry, and in my worst moments, I couldn't see the way back to my old self. 243. In 2020, 23 years after his first surgery, Schwarzenegger underwent a surgery for a new aortic valve. 244. Accidents and injuries. On December 9, 2001, he broke 6 ribs and was hospitalized for 4 days after a motorcycle crash in Los Angeles. 245. Schwarzenegger saved a drowning man in 2004 while on vacation in Hawaii by swimming out and bringing him back to shore. 246. On January 8, 2006, while Schwarzenegger was riding his Harley-Davidson motorcycle in Los Angeles with his son Patrick in the sidecar, another driver backed into the street he was riding on, causing him and his son to collide with the car at a low speed. While his son and the other driver were unharmed, Schwarzenegger sustained an injury to his lip requiring 15 stitches. No citations were issued, said Officer Jason Lee, a Los Angeles Police Department spokesman. 247. Schwarzenegger did not obtain his motorcycle license until July 3, 2006. 248. Schwarzenegger tripped over his ski pole and broke his right femur while skiing in Sun Valley, Idaho, with his family on December 23, 2006. 249. On December 26, he underwent a 90-minute operation in which cables and screws were used to wire the broken bone back together. He was released from St. John's Hospital and Health Center on December 30, 2006. 250. Schwarzenegger's private jet made an emergency landing at Van Nuys Airport on June 19, 2009, after the pilot reported smoke coming from the cockpit, according to a statement released by his press secretary. No one was harmed in the incident. 251. On May 18, 2019, while on a visit to South Africa, Schwarzenegger was attacked and drop-kicked from behind by an unknown malefactor while giving autographs to his fans at one of the local schools. Despite the surprise and unprovoked nature of the attack, he reportedly suffered no injuries and continued to interact with fans. The attacker was apprehended and Schwarzenegger declined to press charges against him. 252. 253. 254. Schwarzenegger was involved in a multi-vehicle collision on the afternoon of Friday, January 21, 2022. Schwarzenegger was driving a black GMC Yukon SUV near the intersections of Sunset Boulevard and Allenford Avenue in the Brentwood neighborhood of Los Angeles, when his vehicle collided with a red Toyota Prius. The driver of the Prius was transported to the hospital for injuries sustained to her head. Schwarzenegger was uninjured. 255. 256. 257. Height. Schwarzenegger's official height of 6 feet 2 in, 1.88 m, has been brought into question by several articles. During his bodybuilding days in the late 1960s, it was claimed that he measured 6 feet 1.5 in, 1.867 m. However, in 1988, both the Daily Mail and Time Out magazine mentioned that Schwarzenegger appeared noticeably shorter. 258. Prior to running for governor, Schwarzenegger's height was once again questioned in an article by the Chicago Reader. 259. As governor, Schwarzenegger engaged in a light-hearted exchange with Assemblyman Herb Wesson over their heights. At one point, Wesson made an unsuccessful attempt to, in his own words, settle this once and for all and find out how tall he is by using a tailor's tape measure on the governor. 260. Schwarzenegger retaliated by placing a pillow stitched with the words "need a lift" on the 5'5" inch, 1.65 m, Wesson's chair before a negotiating session in his office. 261. Democrat Bob Mulholland also claimed Schwarzenegger was 5 feet 10 in, 1.78 m, and that he wore risers in his boots. 262. In 1999, Men's Health magazine stated his height was 5 feet 10 in, 1.78 m. 263. Autobiography. Schwarzenegger's autobiography, Total Recall, was released in October 2012. He devotes one chapter called The Secret to his extramarital affair. The majority of his book is about his successes in the 3 major